Cal the Giant back with another Mistfall Hunter video. I'm sorry I've been away for a while. I've been playing a lot of Borderlands 4 and been dealing with a lot of stuff in real life. I'll probably talk about that soon, but at the moment, I just kind of want to focus on the YouTube right now. And yeah, sorry I've been away with the Mistfall content since beta 3 test. I really didn't get to stream a lot because we had some issues with Wi-Fi in the new apartment. But we're moving soon, and I'm gonna get that gig speed internet. So hopefully I'll be able to stream for you guys because I wasn't really able to. But we are covering an update where we finally have a launch date for Mistfall Hunter, as well as updates and stuff that I really wanted to go over with you guys. Some new game modes coming to the game, and new classes, new maps, etc. Let's jump into this. A lot of this is going to be really exciting news, a lot of bittersweet news, but I do want to hear what you guys think down below. Also, feel free, guys, to subscribe to the channel. Over 90% of you guys who watch my content are not subscribed. And right now, my views are up by 60,000. So if I could just get even 1% of that, that would be amazing. That would help me get over 2K, and that'd be great. And I would like to get to 10K and keep climbing the ladder. So thank you guys so much. You can always unsubscribe. Anyways, let's jump into this. I'm gonna try not to make this video too long because I think we really want to cover like the key points. We need to go over like the little details and stuff like that. They do talk about combat and experience. This actually ended up coming out this morning at like 2 a.m. So my time, I was awake. I was awake in the hospital. I couldn't go to sleep, and I saw that. I was like, "Oh, 2 a.m." I was like, "Okay." So I think the biggest thing that we can take away from the combat and class balance is they do feel like there is a lot of imbalances. For example, we're going to go over this last paragraph on the section where it says, "Our team is relatively small and internal testing alone may not be enough to ensure proper balance. That is why we are launching playtests and gathering more data and feedback for continuous fine tuning. Some tests are more brief than others, and we apologize that the balance hasn't yet reached the level of satisfaction." Honestly, there is a lot to go with the game. I think we can all agree. A lot of us want it out today, and even I was one of those people. But I do agree with the pushback. I think it'll be better for the long term health of the game. I think the biggest takeaway from this segment of the article is going to be that they are actually adding a PvP practice and brawl mode. So these are going to be two separate modes, if I understand this correctly. These should be opportunities for people to test their builds and to also practice in PvP. The brawling mode, from what it sounds like it's gonna be really cool. I'm hoping they kinda do like a dungeon-born mode where you can go in with your gear and you can just kinda battle, and it's almost like a matchmaking mechanic. I think that'd be really cool and kinda open the doors. I do want Mistfall Hunter to have a lot of content besides just purely extraction. I think that's what made Dungeonborn such a beautiful game while we had it, was the fact that, we had our dungeon extraction, and then we also had the ability to matchmake in PvP in a competitive environment, even though we know there was a lot of broken stuff, so it's hard to really call that game competitive. But still, we enjoyed it. We like the stress, right? Their part two, where they talk about early game pressure. I think the biggest thing to take from this is kind of the last part. It says, "Finally, after the further consolidating feedback and details discussed, we plan to implement a series of optimizations in three main areas: gameplay tutorials, resource distribution, and early game PvP pressure. Due to time constraints, crucial combat techniques like special recovery were only covered in training tasks, and many new guild hunters may not have noticed them. There are many similar issues, and we will systematically review and improve gameplay tutorials to ensure both new and veteran guild hunters can be better familiarize themselves with the game. For resource distribution, the main direction we're going with is to provide more starting guild and blood through the task rewards and introduce features similar to equipment set vouchers similar to other gaming projects, allowing players to enter matches at lower costs and with relative ease. We will also continue to reduce the early game PvP pressure to prevent new guild hunters from facing overwhelming challenges." Um, Again, I think this is another great thing. The biggest thing with this game, I've played it a lot during the playtest. I also got the opportunity to be a moderator and still am a moderator at the moment for the game. Doesn't come with any special privileges, in case people are wondering. It's not a flex. It's just an opportunity I signed up to participate in. Um, I think from being in there and seeing all the things people were talking about in discussions, we can really see that, like, kind of how a lot of people feel. And right now, the problem is the early game is just it's tough. Like, there's just a lot of mechanics in the game that I think need to be fixed. Like the campsite, for example, stash space is a huge issue. I think the stacking is an issue. I think just the fact that things are so expensive and you barely get any money, it makes it really hard. The shop just not having a lot of slots open is a problem. There's just so many things like that that really affect the early game that are going to make it really difficult for people. And I think they talked about, this is gonna be the next part where they talked about the matchmaking, which is unfair matchmaking, and I'll kind of tie back to this so I can continue what I was saying. In beta 3, we incorporated skill related parameters into matchmaking, ratings, MMR, but we still observed many matches that weren't well balanced, especially in chaos mode where player counts are lower. Our current plan for tackling this issue is to tighten the equipment and skill restrictions per match. So again, that's kind of like the biggest thing that I like to see because I think the problem right now is like in the easy game mode, right? Where probably about 90% of people are going to be playing in, you can go in from naked to blue. And blue to me really is kind of like that sweet spot gear. Like it's really good. Like if you're in full blue, if you're in full blue and you have good steel, you can fight anybody. I feel like blue is kind of like not necessarily peak, but it's pretty mid, and I don't want to say even like mid tier, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good quality gear, and to be able to run into that into like the lower ranks, I think is a problem. I think really if you're going to be playing in the easy lobbies, I think it literally should just be green and below, and then the other tier should be blue and up. That's just my opinion. I think you need to kind of increase that difficulty slash reward in the other category and make it a little bit easier in the easier tier because essentially, if the gear is not necessarily that good in the lower categories, you're not necessarily going to have people that are like trying to farm kills and stuff really go down there because it's a waste of their time. There is no point for leaderboards other than to brag for no reason, right? Like nobody cares. Like we're just going to call it what it is. Leaderboards aren't important, but at the moment right now, at the launch of the game, there really is no other point to farm the leaderboards at the moment because there's no incentive, there's no rewards other than to just show off, and unfortunately, because of the way the gear works, you can really jump into those lower lobbies with good gear, mow people down, and that's not a fun experience. And then insufficient content variety, this kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, where I think, which I'm hoping with the brawl mode and the practice mode, they kind of incorporate more things into the game that aren't just necessarily like, hey, let's just do only extraction. I hope they have matchmaking modes because this I think will help people who are like, let's say, getting frustrated and just annoyed, kind of take that loot that they get and things like that and go have fun with it in another mode where they don't have to worry about losing it. And pretty much what they say is due to tight schedule, many of the features we envisioned were not fully completed in beta 3. These include more engaging in match tasks and unique gameplay features, a great variety of extraction methods, richer tactical items, and entirely new stage mechanics. With these features and other new content added in the future versions, the gameplay ability will continue to expand. Again, I think that's huge. I think, like, I know a lot of us watching this video, we tie everything back to Dungeonborn. It's just because Dungeonborn really did have, it really did have, like, a really good foothold and kind of like an innovation on the genre that I think all of us liked, and it was a bit of a breath of fresh air. So, I think to really kinda dive into that and just hopefully they expand upon the more opportunities they could make with a game like this, I think would be really cool. Before people go in the comment section and say things, I don't think they should make a PvE only mode. I think part of the fun and the flair of these games is literally, like, the intensity of, "Am I gonna make it out?" And I think if you take that away, it's kinda boring. I know people are like, "Well, I just wanna go with my friends and go do that," but, I mean, there are PvE extraction games like that. I mean, that's my opinion on the topic. I hope they don't do that. But anyways, and also talk about matchmaking, they really should add duos. I don't care, and I'm looking at you guys, you know who I'm talking about. I don't care what you guys think. Duos need to come to this game. I think duos is the best mode, period. The thing about trios that I do not like about trios is a lot of the class imbalances because the classes are not really balanced. In trios, it just feels brutal. Like it really, really feels brutal when you run against like the optimized set. In duos, it's very interesting because you really have to play within your strength because you're not really necessarily like covered on all angles, because for example, like you could play Seer and then you could have Merc and then you could have Sork, right? You could kind of have that combo. I think to me that was like arguably probably like the best triple play for trios because you had your seer who could be aggressive and be a support heal, right? And kind of be in the fight and be far away. Or you could have the Revenant seer or Blasphemer seer. I mean, you can go in there and be aggressive, be more the higher DPS, but still tanky, still have good crowd control abilities. And then you have the Merc, who again is slow, but he's tankier and he can hit like a truck. They don't underestimate the mercenary. Then you had Sork in the background just shitting on everybody, or you have a black arrow in the background. So it's just a lot of things that just kind of like made that game mode in my opinion, not balanced. But I think with duos, it's just nice because it's literally just like you either got it or you don't, and then you really have to adapt to the fight at that situation. And I think that even though that doesn't necessarily make sense when I say it, it's going to make for more engaging and more fun gameplay. And let's be honest, a lot more people have people to play in a duo than a trio in. I don't like trios because people just like to trio stomp, like because let's be honest, in this game there's a very high skill ceiling. I would say about 99% of the people fall into like they play the game, they understand the game, they're above average, and then that's it. And then you have that 1% of the game that just plays the game till there's no tomorrow, has the best gear in the world, and then they just literally fart on everybody, and there's nothing you can do. And I'm not in that 1% yet. I'll humble myself. I am not there. Beta 3 was my first playtest, and that was an experience. I remember getting one shot a few times, and it made me wanna, like, flip my desk and do a backflip, and I don't explode. It just really pissed me off, and I know a lot of people feel the same way. Now, Pip's Pocket, I don't even know what made us get on that tangent, but Pip's Pocket is getting an update. Looks like what they wanna do with Pip's Pocket is potentially allow you to get out of the game modes with items instead of materials. I think that's great. If you find a legendary, you have the opportunity to extract with it. I think that is very cool. Again, I do love the fact that they don't have dice mechanic like Dungeon Born had, so if I do kill somebody with a legendary, I get to walk out of there with it. I don't have to worry about like, "Oh, they got away with it." Again, great change. I love that change. And then in the upcoming features in the game and content, new classes, new maps, new bosses, holy weapons, and a legendary equipment for all classes. That sounds really cool. I don't necessarily know what they mean by legendary equipment for all classes. I hope this is kind of like, I think the best way to think of this is kinda like Destiny with the class mods. If there's, like, some type of, like, mods that you could get, like, like, for your class that, like, do specific things, and maybe there's different ones that you can go out there and find. I just think there's so many ways for them to really expand upon the game. I don't want this game to be so linear and one-dimensional. It just because of, like, the gameplay, the graphics, the design of everything, and the way the combat feels, I feel like they really have a gem in their hand. Mistfall Hunter, they really do, and I am one of their biggest supporters. I really want them to just nail this, like, through and through, knock it out of the park, and just do a killer job. Something else they talk about, again, is the PvP practice and brawl mode. This mode allows players to practice and get familiar with PvP mechanics at no cost. Again, great system, like I said, I think the game needs that. Dungeonborn had it, and it was awesome, they need to do it again. This is where I think the competitiveness should really lie in, because this is where I think people would really care. They made leaderboards. People would actually play extraction mode properly, and then actually have this to go into. Expanding camp development. They said the camp system in beta 3 was still quite basic. In future versions, more NPCs will join the camp, and camp building will feature richer and more interesting content. Again, I think the camp for the most part, like I said, was pretty good. I just think there's some elements of it that could really be adjusted for a much better experience. Higher difficulty match made modes will also launch alongside new maps, offering greater rewards but with deadlier enemies. Additionally, new features such as controller support, in game skins, and other exciting content are also on the way. For detailed previews of these upcoming events, please stay tuned in the community announcements. Again, amazing. I think them adding, like, a 3rd tier to the game would be great because, again, it's really gonna push people out because, to be honest, I felt like chaos was not chaos. I felt like chaos was I think chaos is, to me, normal, like and I'm not even saying that to be, like to sound, like, "Oh, I'm so good at the game," or, like, whatever, like, I'm being very genuine. I feel like the regular mode felt like training. You kinda went in there, the enemies weren't crazy, the bosses weren't crazy. Then you went into chaos, and again, the enemies felt they felt like they had the same health. I kinda felt felt the same, maybe they hit a little harder, I don't know. The bosses felt relatively the same. Damage was definitely upped for sure, but it kinda felt how the game was intended to be played, if that makes any sense, because everything just felt right in chaos, and then, like, in normal, it just felt too easy. Because even in chaos, like, if you have, like, a good build, you can one-shot the mobs, so it still feels really easy, but it feels right. And then it says, like so again, it kinda, like, feels right, so I just hope that they hope with the 3rd difficulty, they actually up the health, they make it more engaging combat, and in the sense of, like, the enemies are tougher, so you gotta think, you can't just, like, AFK walk through the map and kill everything. Even though we know that's gonna happen, because people always find out the strongest builds, the metas for everything. Future plans, as mentioned above, We still have a great deal of new content and optimization we want to complete. Our goal for Mistfall Hunter to launch in more complete and polished state when it officially releases, and that date is going to be in March of 2026. Again, I think we all expected the game not to come out this year. I was one of the naive optimists. I was like, maybe it will because I wanted it to, but honestly, like I said earlier in the video, I'm happy it didn't. And then down below, they released a map or a graph kind of showing the extraction rates for classes. Let's be honest, you don't care about that detail. I don't care about that detail. I think all of us have a different opinion on what the extractions are versus what the numbers are. Not saying anything negative about that. I just like to be very honest with you guys, and I know that's why a lot of you guys are subscribed to my channel because I just kind of say it how it is for the most part. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please consider subscribing to the channel. Help me get to 2K. Also, go down below and let me know what you guys are excited for. Are you pissed about this? Are you excited about this? What do you want to see in the next Mistfall Hunter video? And I will catch you all in the next one. Peace.